My apologies. I was trying to show everybody Mila, who's over there, and I dropped the computer. So I'm just going to go ahead. Hi, Noelle. Noelle, I'm sorry. I was trying to show Mila because she gets a little cranky when I try to pick her up. But unfortunately, I dropped the computer. So thanks, Kathy W., for showing up. What you see is what you get here. Sometimes we mess up the computer. Do you want to say a quick hello, Mila, to everybody? Hi, David. Hi, Jane. Hi, Joanna. Sorry, I dropped the computer. It happens. I'm only human. Thank you, everybody who joined me so quickly on the new stream. Gina, hello. Yvette, hello. Paula, welcome. Deanna, Sylvia, my apologies for dropping the computer. Chris, hello. Jana. Time for me to get a new computer also. This is a computer I've had for a couple of years. I think it's time to get a new one. Reach the Unlimited with Joanne Eisen. Yay! Very nice name. Vani Sanchez, hello. Wandering Eyes is here in the house. Susan Henry. Harry's Mom, 2008. White Sage, hello, hello. Sandra is in the house. Rachel, Constance. You guys are great. Thank you. You made that switch so nice for me. As you can see, we still have our chaos magic set up here. We got some Buddhist imagery. We got some Hanukkah stuff. I still have my Pesach, my Seder played out just because I think it's pretty. And my Kiddush cups. And my Santa Claus for Mila and me. We got our stockings. We got a little bit of a Yule thing going on over here. Try to include everybody. Oh, thank you very much. Happy solstice, everybody. Happy solstice. Hello, Lynn Ganong from Toronto. T-Bar, Wendy K, Els. Hi to you as well. Sharon Costello. So today, as you can see, I am in my chair. My back feels good. Let me just see what kind of mood she's in. Hi. Would you like to come say hi to everybody? You wouldn't? No? Hi. Look, Mila. Mila. Look at all the people that want to say hi to you. Yeah, she's such a good baby. All right, that's all. She's going to go back onto her chair. All right, so as some of you know, last night I did an extended kind of meditation based on some request. I had a lot of questions from viewers. I decided to go ahead and just put up a note about what that I was going to be doing along remote viewing last night. So it was interesting. I was doing the heart-centered Kuan Yin remote viewing technique. And is this angle okay? Do I need to change the angle? How's that? I feel like I should come closer. So it was interesting. The first thing I was focusing on in last night's remote is, for those people who are trying to learn the heart-centered remote viewing technique, it's based on developing empathy. And usually how I start is the first part of the meditation is I'll sit comfortably and then just imagine that you're relaxing yourself from your head to your toe. And then after you do that, then you imagine grounding yourself. Use a grounding technique. Excuse me, just gonna have some coffee. Hi, Mila. So that you're grounding yourself to Mother Earth. And then after you ground yourself, you allow white light to come up from the earth. Other people have used green light, which is healing. There's pink light. Pink and green are the colors of the pink lotus, which is also something you'll see a lot of pink and green that I will use. In my imagery here, it's the pink lotus. It's also the colors of Kuan Yin, or the feminine Buddha nature. And you imagine the light coming up, opening up the first chakra all the way up, second, third, it goes up until it hits the fourth chakra. Then you imagine Father Sky energy coming down from the seventh to the sixth to the fifth, and then high heart, low heart, high heart, and then you mingle the energies. And then you sit in a state which we call abiding, which is similar to the Catholic tradition of abiding with Christ. And the idea is to connect oneself with spirit. That can sometimes be all a person wants to do in the meditation. They may only want to just sit and abide in spirit. They may want to read Psalms or some kind of spiritual writings, poetry, whatever gets you into a state of peace. I like the state, the abiding state, because it's often an opportunity for you to connect with your higher self. If you're not a religious person, then it's an opportunity to connect with your higher self, or that part of you that wants what's best for yourself and for everyone else. So it's often a time where you let yourself be loved by the universe, basically. Abiding with Christ, or abiding with Kuan Yin or divine love. It's a very peaceful state to be in. It's a very calm state to be in. I often imagine myself in kind of a spiritual womb where I'm being nurtured and loved. That's the first three states, and that may be enough if you're not interested in being a remote viewer, but you simply want to experience that kind of healing. The fourth phase in the remote technique is when you invite somebody else into that space. And there's a reason why we're talking about this. First off, because people ask me to keep talking about it, but it has to do with the first message I got from Spirit. But so in the fourth phase, it's similar to regular remote viewing in the sense that you have a target. The target may be, it's not a place usually, it's an actual person. Say your target is Vladimir Putin, who always loves to talk to us, right? We always get to have a nice conversation with Vladimir. So what you've done is you've established a safe, loving environment for the person who you're attempting to communicate with. You're out of your ego. You're out of your fear base. You're not on the defensive. You're not angry. You're in a very loving, abiding place. And then from there, you can invite someone else in. So you lock on your target. Donald Trump. Somebody asked Macron. He's always fun. Trudeau is fun. And you send them this love. You imagine the stream of love from your fourth chakra, your heart chakra, connecting with theirs, and you send them love, and you try to establish some kind of an intimate connection with your target. And that process, you either get a response or you don't. Sometimes the response you get is a definitive no. Very rarely does William Barr let me in. I don't get very far with William Barr, for example. Then I'm always surprised. I get very far with Putin. Putin gives me tons of information about what he's thinking, how he's feeling, what upsets him. And then you document the what you're receiving from the other person, from the target. And then afterwards, you cut the cord and you thank the person, and you end the relationship. You cut the cord. You thank them for sharing, and then you release the person. So those are the 5 steps in heart-centered remote viewing technique, and it's often been used to spy on opponents, to avoid war, to try and put yourself in the situation of somebody who's looking for a tissue. Hold on a second. Sorry, guys. It is the season. It is the season, as they say. So that's the five-step technique we use. So I worked for about an hour and a half, 2 hours last night. And the questions I got were, I was given a wide range of questions by you folks. So one by one, we'll go through them all. As you can see, my notes were copious. During the fourth stage of the remote, when you're connecting to your target, it's a good idea to keep a notebook and start feeling what they're giving you. They may not give you words, but emotions or sensations, because you're in the heart chakra. And that's why you won't necessarily always get the exact words, but you may get the feeling. For example, we did a remote on Queen Elizabeth II. We tried to connect with her. Sometimes she shows up in the dream state, complaining about her husband sometimes. We're all human, right? And she was the one that told me that Harry and Meghan were leaving for Christmas and that she was upset and that she had spoken to Charles because of the situation. She didn't want them to leave. Remember, we got that remote in October. They had already talked about leaving. And at first she was opposed to it, but then she accepted that it was probably a good idea because she saw the situation was impossible. And she, you know, so that's an example of a remote viewing with somebody who's in the public eye. And now they're going to be in Canada. Yay, for Christmas, which is closer to us, which is good. All right, so the first message I got, I suppose this is a message from Spirit, really helped me a lot. And this is basically what I heard when I was in the abiding state before I went to the targets, before I targeted, worked out, focused on anybody or anybody's questions. Is everybody okay? Are you ready for the remote after that long explanation? Oh, Queen Elizabeth's husband is in the hospital? Oh, well, we'll have to send him healing. Yes. They're very different energetically. Oh, thank you, Larry Girl. That's very sweet. All right, so here is the first message, and I think it's going to help us all during the holidays and beyond. My higher self, spirit, etc., in the abiding state. This is the first message. There is too much violence in the world, too many visual images of violence. It is important to be informed, but do not wallow in the negativity. Instead, it would be wiser to focus on creating a safe place for yourself. Live simply, avoid strife, take only what you need from the earth, help the planet, and stay safe. By living minimally, you will never have to worry about not having enough. You will always have enough. By keeping yourself safe, you will never be threatened by the outside world. This allows you to feel love for others. First, you must feel safe. When we think about love, we think about the feminine attributes of a human being. We think about the mother, we think about the maternal, we think about the feminine. But the feminine will always leave if she is not safe. The heart will always leave when it is not safe. Consequently, your first priority is that you must be safe, and you must create a safe space for others. Safety, therefore, is your number one priority. And you will not find love if you do not establish this first. All right, so that was the first message, that the number one priority is that our homes must be safe, and that we must, for example, if we're spending more money than we can we afford, we have fear and anxiety of homelessness, not being able to pay our medical bills. But if we live frugally and simply, we will always have enough. Take only what we need, be grateful for what we have. basically create a safe nest for ourselves. And that's when you attract love. You have to establish a safe nest. No one's going to land if the nest isn't safe. And if you're in a constant state of fear, you'll send out fear. So this was the first phase of the remote as I was in the abiding state. Then as I went further into the state, my first target was, believe it or not, Paul Simon, because we are reading the book which he actually did the voice for. He narrated the book that we're reading this month, which is The Life You Can Save by Peter Singer. It's celebrating its 10th anniversary. And I tried to see if he had a message for us since the group was reading the book. And he said that he will spend the rest of his days being an advocate for the poor, but he's trying to do it in a way that's very modest. So he talked about pulling back from the public stage, beginning to live his life more frugally and simply. And now he's in a point in his life where he's simply, in a very quiet way, he's not trying to be too public about it. He's basically becoming an advocate for the poor, and he's basically going to give everything away. So that was the first person, that was the first target. The second target was Nancy Pelosi. And when I went into the meditative state with Nancy Pelosi, I found myself sitting next to Adam Schiff. And as I was sitting with Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff, they were having a private meeting with the intelligence agencies, and they were getting a private debriefing. So this is interesting. This was an interesting thing that's going to come up. It looks like, because Adam Schiff is on the intelligence committee, and because Nancy Pelosi gets security briefings, it appears that both of them are having private meetings with the intelligence agencies. So remember when we had talked about when we first started this channel that there, a couple years ago, this is before everything was made public, that there was a leak in the intelligence agencies, that people had been compromised and bribed in DC, and that it was so bad that they didn't even know there were people in the intelligence agencies and in Congress that could not be trusted, and the intelligence agencies were investigating them. It had to do with dark money, bribes, super PACs. The situation was very, very bad. And so the intelligence agencies basically went dark. They went dark and they monitored the situation under Obama and started getting private debriefings. So what's happening now is that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi evidently are having these private briefings with the intelligence agencies, and something is going to be coming up that's being coordinated with the intelligence agencies and the military that will be made public in a very short amount of time. Remember when we did the remote viewing on the British intelligence, and the only message we got back from British intelligence is, you'll know everything we know in a very short amount of time? This seems to be the nature of these private meetings between the intelligence agencies, Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi. The fact that we could see it, because we always ask permission, tells me that something is probably going to break, probably over the holiday. They're simmering on something and it's about to come out. So there's something that they're coordinating. The other, when I went further into that remote, they said that Nunes, is that how you say his name? Gavin Nunes, is that correct? Had been compromised. And they actually had a file on him, which people wanted to know about how they were able to find his phone number and how they were able to see he had been talking and coordinating with the White House, it was because the intelligence agencies already had been monitoring him for a couple of years. It had nothing to do with Schiff. It had nothing to do with Nancy Pelosi. It had to do with this ongoing investigation into compromised persons inside the intelligence agencies, etc. And so it was actually the NSA, the intelligence agencies, that alerted the people they could trust who they felt were not compromised, Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi, who were meeting secretly to discuss this. And so that was how Schiff found out about Nunes. It wasn't that Schiff sent off people to go investigate Nunes. It was that the intelligence agencies, during their investigation, intercepted phone calls between Nunes and foreign nationals. Sorry, but this is going to break. And if you voted for him, I apologize. And that was how it was brought to the attention of Schiff during one of these debriefings. There goes the sirens. So that's the inside scoop that I think was happening with Nunes based on last night's meditation. Then I focused on the targets, Jared and Ivanka. And with Jared and Ivanka, it said that they are very aware that they're under surveillance, and they're very aware that they're under investigation. She's in more trouble than he is. Every time I go into the remote on Jared and Ivanka, she's in more trouble than he is. And it appears it's because she signed certain documents. So that was something I saw. I think I'll go back to that. But that was the first thing I saw about Jared and Ivanka. The next question I had, people wanted me to look at Russian aggression. Were they going to attempt to go into the voting rolls again? Could I look at Russian aggression? So I did try to target, have the target be Vladimir Putin this time. For whatever reason, he likes me. He talks to me all the time. I don't know. And he said that he was, this is point blank what I heard when I went into Putin's energy. You can't keep me from making deals with Europe. You can't continue to be a bully and keep me from doing business with other countries. The truth of the matter is the United States is in violation of international treaties and trade deals. You can't continue to blockade trade routes and bully people. If you want a free, democratic Russia, you can help by opening up our economy to Europe, and then we can open up trade with a greater EU, and then Russians can go and work in the hotel industry, etc., in Europe. Basically, what Putin is saying is that it's the United States, not him, that's in violation of certain treaties, that they bankrupted Russia, and that we cannot stronghold Europe into not doing business. Hi, Tawny. We cannot stronghold Europe. In plainer words, from Putin's perspective, we're bullying Europe, and we're saying, you better not do business with Putin, and you better continue to do business with the United States, and we're going to control the oil prices, and we're going to control the trade routes, and you're going to pay what we want you to pay. And Putin is saying, come on, let's be reasonable here. You can't first off, you're in violation of the treaties, not Russia. We had certain agreement with you. You broke those agreements. Then you engaged in blockades. You got behind Saudi Arabia to support, to create fake oil prices that benefited you and Saudi Arabia. And Europe should not be forced to have to pay too much for petrol while you bully Europe. And so Europe is getting tired of you, and they're getting tired of you fixing the oil prices and being in plain words, he and Europe is beginning to see America as the bully. And they want to do business with Russia because Russia can give them a better deal on things like oil. And he's trying to convince the purpose of NATO, as far as Putin is concerned, is to bully Russia, Iran, etc., so that they can continue to control oil prices and trade. So that's basically what Putin is saying. Does anybody have any questions so far? Do you think Putin has a point? I mean, I don't know. I think we need mediators. That's what I think. Got a frog in my throat. Yes, good point about Ukraine. Okay, thanks, Kathy. Prayer meditation on December 26th. Kwanzaa. So based on the remote, we could be seeing more open border, open trade between the West and Russia, simply because they're offering a better deal. And this is part of why they're being aggressive. It's a feeling like you were aggressive first. You collapsed our economy first. The only reason that I think this is relevant is because it helps us step away from looking at things as Americans and more from the perspective of European economy, trying to open up trade, trying to save. I know the petrol prices have been pretty high. They've been pretty inflated. So I can see why France and Germany would want to theoretically do business. It doesn't mean that they like Putin. It doesn't mean that they think Putin is a nice guy. This is strictly business. And so when Putin says, come on, let's be reasonable, you're bullies. This goes back to the days of the Silk Road, when the Arab Peninsula was blocking trade. And so you had to pay their prices for silk, etc. And so what happened was Great Britain and the United States and Saudi Arabia were blockading, and you had to buy oil from them, and it was at exorbitant prices. And so this is kind of a continuation of that, where Putin is saying, great, I'll put my pipeline in, we'll open up via Turkey, Turkish stream, and extend into Europe. And now you've got a new trade route for your oil. We're bypassing the blockade, and you can't stop us, and you cannot intimidate us, and you're actually the ones in violation of trade laws. And the reason why we have the economy of Italy is because you intentionally bankrupted us after reneging on all your treaties. So I know nothing about any of this. I just want to please do not get mad at the messenger. People always get mad at me. They yell at me. They tell me I'm a whatever. My job is, it's like being on a phone call. When you're a remote viewer, when you're a heart-centered remote viewer, you're not supposed to have any ego about it. You pick up the phone, you hold a conversation energetically with the other person. They tell you what's going on to the best of your ability. You record what they said, and then you deliver what they said. And people are always getting mad at me. They're unfriending me. It's my job to pick up the phone and call in the remote state. It's not my job to, anyway, that is Putin's argument. But what's interesting about it for us is that we could see increasing shift in, if he can give Germany and France and Europe a better deal on petrol, then of course they're going to do business with him. And this could have an impact on us financially here in the United States. All right. Tulsi Gabbard, I also looked at. Somebody had asked me if I could look into Tulsi Gabbard. And she kept talking similar to Putin in the sense that we had reneged on certain treaties and that we should work with the international community. She basically was saying that the same thing that Putin said, that we had bullied our way into controlling resources, that we couldn't continue to maintain it, that it was helping people get rich, but it wasn't necessarily good for Europe, and that we couldn't continue to police the world. She's not saying she liked Putin, but she was saying that objectively speaking, in terms of international treaties, etc., he had a point. All right, so then my next target was Trump, Donald Trump. And Donald Trump showed me an enemies list. And this was a little bit scary because with Donald Trump, he was talking a lot about his fantasies about who he was going to hurt, how he was going to hurt them, how he was going to get back at them, what he was going to do to them. In his fantasy, he wanted like the courts. He wanted people to be tried and humiliated. He wanted them publicly stripped of their ranks. It almost looked like a court in China, but he's got a list. He said, first on the list, he wants to go after Adam Schiff, etc. He wants them in front of a court, humiliated, degraded, tortured. It was pretty gruesome. And basically, his first order of business, if he's reelected, he said, is to fulfill that fantasy. He wants revenge for everybody who screwed him over, and Adam Schiff is like the first on the list. But but basically, it's not what's best for the country. No, he wants complete and total control in order to exact revenge on his enemies. He also said that he agrees with Putin, and that if Putin wants to take Europe, it would probably be a pretty good thing. Does anybody? He was pretty angry. So I think he's pretty upset about what's going on right now. He wants to be dictator, Tower of the London lockup style. Yeah. He cares about the trade route, and he cares about getting his trade out, and it's something that he's been talking about ad nauseum on this channel for 2 years, to the point where people just can't hear it anymore, because it's almost like OCD. But now that we've reached that point, 2 years later, now that the pipes are being built, and how do I keep sane? Because I'm safe, and I'm looking at it objectively, and I'm not emotionally attached to it. And I'm picking up the phone. I'm target. I have my target. I lock on my target. I open up my heart. The person's in a very loving, safe place, and I know I'm safe because I've done the 4 steps. And then the person is invited in, and then I ask them the question. And then Putin's been very honest, actually. He wants his damn trade. I didn't know that it was up for debate whether. I don't know anything about international trade. Anybody who knows anything about this, evidently he keeps claiming that we're in violation of stuff. I don't know. The next question I had is Fred and Mary Trump, if I could try and tune into their energy. The only thing I got when I tuned into Fred and Mary Trump and tried to go into that energy is that I found myself instead in Donald Trump's energy as a very young child, and I was being hit. I was being physically hit. So fear for my safety, fear of physical assault, and it appeared in the remote like physical violence and threats even before the age of 2. So it looks like Fred Trump may have been physically violent with the children at extremely early ages. and I don't know if Mary Trump also punished them, but being in the remote state of Trump at the early age, even before being verbal, there was a fear of physical violence and assault. So I want to go back now to the remote we did on debriefings that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi received. And it looks like the Pentagon could be issuing a report, or they're waiting on some kind of a report. And another thing that keeps coming up is missing money. And something is about to break. Something is opening up with the Pentagon and missing money and issuing a report about certain things that were done, and it's really pretty damning. It's really pretty horrible, and there's some stuff that's going to be coming out. Remember last time I told you it was like a rotting corpse? That's exactly what it feels like. It feels like just something really awful is it's like you dig something up that was buried, but it was buried a month ago or something, and out come the maggots. That's basically what this looks like. I was asked about Pompeo, so I also did a remote on Pompeo. And with Pompeo, he basically, what Pompeo said is that I can't be punished for following the policies of this administration. That's what I got from Pompeo. So in plain words, Pompeo feels that he's safe. That, hold on, what is this? I don't care how the hell he was raised. This is bullshit. Well, I was asked to go in and look at his parenting. And so if you ask the question, because we had opened up on the comment section of this channel that people could ask whatever they like. Tess Neem wants a reading. Yes, you can have a reading. You can go to tarotwithwhimsy.com. Or you can call and make an appointment at 323-762-3982. But this is a review of the remotes that we did. So yeah, Lori, I get not having empathy, and I get it. But I thought it was insightful just from a psychological perspective to be able to understand just how defended this individual is. I mean, yeah, and why he has such a fragile ego. So I thought that from a psychological perspective, it was pretty interesting. Does anybody have any questions? Let's take a break because we're halfway through, and I feel like I'm just going really quickly through the remotes from last night. Does anybody have questions so far about any of those remotes? I can look at anonymous in the future, but right now this is just a review of the questions people had last night. Overstand? I don't. Oh, it was Julie that asked about Fred and Mary Trump. Due to feelings, I had a remote viewing. Thanks, Whimsy, Love and Light. Oh, yeah, I wasn't able to get into them, but when I put the energy out, I instead found myself very young. That's the youngest I've ever been able to remote Donald Trump, and he wasn't just extremely disciplinarian, but disciplinarian isn't the right word for it. It's constant negative, threatening behavior at a very young age. Yeah, Carla, 5 Pentagon officials quit. There's something going on there, and there's a report coming out of some type that I saw. But what was really interesting about that remote was the fact that Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi had been meeting secretly with the intelligence agencies, and it was also feeling like, dang, are they all that's left of our country? As like are these the only 2 people the intelligence agencies can trust at this point? I mean, like, what the heck? So I thought that was kind of interesting that these secret conversations were going on, and they had a list of phone calls, etc., of people that they had intercepted who were under investigation, and Nunes was one of them. Lori, yes. I assume based on your background that you are a heart-centered remote viewer, because that's usually how we get our training. Somebody had asked me about why are so many why does the government hire so many remote viewers that were in foster care or in the system? If you're talking about the heart-centered remote viewing technique, I think it's the ability to open our hearts and love somebody who's a complete stranger and then have to cut it off and move on to the next target. That kind of disassociation and detachment is necessary to do this kind of work. So I'm assuming that Lori Sue is also a trained heart-centered remote viewer. All right, do we have any more questions before we go on? Yeah, Jamie, it's a feeling that these are secret meetings when she gets her debriefing, her and Adam Schiff, and that they're involved in some private meetings that the public is not privy to. And you guys are asking so many great questions, but we're going to have to do it next time, because this was part of a really complicated remote viewing I did for. No, Obama is not under investigation. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to move on. So everybody's up to snuff about the remotes so far. Anyway, so the last remote was on Pompeo. He says he can't be punished because he's following the policies of this administration. So he's got an interesting argument there. He's basically saying that as Secretary of State, it's his job to enforce the policies of the administration that put him in power. And so basically, Pompeo's argument is that he is just following orders. Sound familiar? I can't get in trouble. I'm just following orders. The next remote was on George Conway's The Lincoln Project, and that was kind of fun. They see themselves as a preservationist society, he said, for the preservation of the Constitution and the party of Lincoln. So at this point, when I went into that energy, it felt like they were attempting to preserve the Constitution, that they were afraid that the Constitution and the values of the Constitution would be lost. And they were concerned that they were concerned about the loss of the party. And so what they're doing almost looks like a library to preserve the values of the Republican Party in the event that everything would be lost. Anyway, that was interesting. Okay. Pompeo lied about knowing anything at first. He lied. Yeah, but his defense is going to be, I was just following orders. That's right. And unfortunately, Yolanda, those that went on trial didn't. Sorry, I live by a busy street. It's LA. Every street's a busy street. It didn't work for them in Nuremberg, and it probably won't work for them again. Okay, do I see speaking to President Obama being impeached? It was hilarious. Did you see Trumpties speaking on President Obama being? I don't know anything about that. Hitler's generals, yeah. All right, so I was asked about children at the border, and this was kind of, I had mixed, I kind of got mixed information about it. It looks like they're going to be able to reunite families because people are going to volunteer to contribute their DNA. So if you have a missing child, or if a relative of yours is in the system, you can contribute your DNA, and there's going to be they're going to raise funds for a legal defense for the children. And so there's going to be some pro bono work, and there's also going to be legal action taken against the administration, and probably compensation. But the main thing I saw was that they're going to create a pretty extensive DNA database in order to reunite people. And then there's going to be legal defense funds to individually take out lawsuits. And a lot of the children are going to be granted asylum. A lot of them are going to be granted asylum, and a lot of the parents are going to be granted asylum for what they were put through. All right, Gwen, we can put that. We can give money to the ACLU this month. Absolutely. So that was basically what I picked up on that. The future of Nancy Pelosi was also asked about. Again, the only thing that came up is she seems to be working with the military about some response. And boy, she's really amazing, Nancy Pelosi. Her and Schiff, like these private meetings with the intelligence agencies. And it's almost like she's the real commander in chief or something, like these private meetings between her. And it's like the intelligence agencies and the generals trust her, and she's the one that's really leading. And it's like I could totally see why Trump would want to have it out with her if he knew about just how far these meetings have gone. It's crazy. Somebody had asked about the eclipse on December 26th. And for whatever reason, when I meditated on that, I wound up at Fox News. And instead, I started meditating on people leaving Fox News, that there would be a new group of people leaving Fox, and that there would be new leadership at Fox, and that it would be regarding some kind of an investigation. So there's new, almost like a military feel to it, a new group of people coming into Fox, and that a lot of people would be jumping ship, and that some people would be under investigation at Fox. The other question I was asked was, would they be adding to the articles of impeachment? Probably yes, because I had seen 4 articles, but abuse of power seems to be broad. It seems to be a broad scope. So under abuse of powers, they can add other things like misappropriation of funds, handing state secrets over to foreign governments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think that they're going to add to the impeachment. People had asked about SoCal tsunami. I didn't see that. And then the last question we looked at was, oh no, there was 2 more. The Green New Deal, yeah, and I think that it's going to be very, very active in creating. We're going forward in terms of advanced forms of planting and indoor planting, and it's going to be ways of producing more food in temperature-controlled areas. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Very sweet of you. Very sweet. And thank you to the person who sent me a $20 a gift certificate for Starbucks. I haven't spent it yet, but that was so sweet. Thank you very much. And thank you to Maury for sending the canned, he sent me canned pears from his farm. I have not tried them yet, but I'm very excited. It reminds me of my mother who sent me, who used to make those sorts of things. Thanks to everyone who sent Christmas cards, holiday cards. I sent cards out and 8 bounced. So if you didn't get your holiday card from Tarot with Whimsy or Oracle of Whimsy, it's because your email didn't work. So yeah, so I sent the holiday cards out a couple of days ago through Blue Moon Cards. It's kind of nice because you can preserve paper. You can do it through email. The virtual cards are better. It's better on the environment than the paper cards. All right, the last remote I did was Bar. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. We have time for questions after this. Bar gave the same argument that Pompeo did, which is that he is very confident that he followed the law and for that reason cannot be prosecuted. So Barr feels he has a really solid case that even though you may not like him, it was he followed protocols with the Justice Department. He's one of these people that he feels you can hate him, but he didn't break any laws. He can't be prosecuted. And he's somebody who seems to feel that he knows the law and knows the Justice Department so well that he's not concerned that anything's going to happen to him. From where he's sitting, he feels that he has a good defense. All right, so we've got 8 minutes left. Did everybody enjoy? Wasn't that a long remote viewing? An hour and a half of downloading remotes last night. It takes a lot out of me to do that type of remote. I started off like playing drumming music. I ate a really big meal just to get my energy up. I was drumming. I was dancing to the drums. I was trying to get myself in a really nice state. I did not lie down for this remote viewing because I knew if I was going to lay down, I was going to fall asleep. So I sat in my chair and did it so that I would stay awake. It was a lot of information. The Green Deal is exciting. It was kind of nice to end on that because saw some really cool new growing techniques that are going to start developing. Does anybody have any? You always fall asleep, Michelle? Maybe get a comfy chair and start. A lot of the times people will fall asleep even before they get to stage 3 of the remote. You know, they start thinking about the abiding and like, oh, I'm abiding in Christ's love. I feel so safe. Great, I can get some sleep. Because safety a lot of the time will particularly people with complex PTSD, they don't feel safe. So they'll get to stage 3, the abiding aspect, and then they'll just fall asleep. And that's okay. It means you need to rest. I would say if you're struggling with the technique or you're falling asleep, maybe start the remote an hour earlier and, set the tone. I like candles. I listen to mantras. I love Snatnam Kaur, if you haven't heard her music. Actually, I can write it out for people, but I listen to her, and I also listen to Prima Deva. Is it Prima Deva? Is that what you say? And I also listen to Krishna Das. Yeah, Snatnam Kaur, Krishna Das, and Prima Deva are the main people I listen to. And then I also listen to Yoruba drumming. Last night I was listening to drumming for Eshu Alegba, who is the keeper of the crossroads. And in the traditional Yoruba, in the Yoruba tradition, we you feed him first. He opens the way. So I played some nice Eshu Alegba music, and then I played something for Oshun, who is the Orisha of love. She did, because she's waiting on more documents coming in from the intelligence agencies. Also, remember we did the remote a couple of weeks ago where I said that there would be a break in the Christian community, and that I had a vision of a woman. She was packing her children in a stroller, and she was going to vote Democrat for the first time in her life. And I said, why? And she said, this is not my faith. Remember that? Oshun, yeah. I gave an offering to Oshun last night as well. Binaural beats. Yeah, anything that gets you there. I like the Catholic tradition as well. In Hidden Light is a 20-minute documentary you may all want to take a look at, which has to do with the Carmelite nun tradition of meditation, which is very similar to what we're doing here. Okay, we've got 4 more minutes. Oh, Gregorian chanting. Yeah, also nice. Anything, it goes back to the first message we got from Spirit, which is safety first, safety first, safety first. Yeah, isn't it weird, Missouri? Momo, is anybody else getting like a corpse or a putrid imagery in their remotes? Does anybody besides me started to get like this horrible stench or this horrible repulsive truth is going to come out? Or are people getting a different kind of imagery when they do their remotes? Salome's? Noel is getting death. Just for curiosity here, since I've got 615 people spending the afternoon with me, how many people who are now live chatting are training to be heart-centered remote viewers, or are using it in their private life to work out issues with friends, family, etc.? And have you found the heart-centered remote viewing technique to be helpful in your personal life? I'm just curious. Happy birthday to Skull King. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Skull King. Happy birthday to you. Like that? She wanted to have a happy birthday song. Because a lot of people have fear and anxiety. We have adrenal fatigue. And so what happens is, in the first stage of the remote, we want you to feel safe. And so if your first response to feeling safe is to collapse and fall asleep, it's a message to you that you need to get some sleep. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It just means that perhaps you're holding on to a lot of fear. And so this is why a lot of people, when they are training to be heart-centered remote viewers, will only focus on the first and second stage of, look, if you can get to the third stage where you're just abiding in love and letting yourself be loved by Mother God or divine spirit or the endless loving universe, whatever, a Buddhist tradition talks about the various different Buddhist gods, forces that exist in the universe that sustain us. They say every time you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, for example, You have all these Buddhist gods that are conspiring on your behalf. All these energies show up and are pushing forward to manifest your highest self. So it's the same idea, depending upon what your particular tradition is, that you are entering into a state of protection where the universe is conspiring on your behalf. Does anybody have any last questions before we close on remote viewing technique challenges they're having? Because the more of us that can do this, I think the better for the world. And everybody, we want to wish a happy birthday to Skull King. It's okay if you fall asleep. It means you need it. Yes, there is a standing protest outside the White House. It's already started, and it's going to be building. So in the case of minks, then just sitting and abiding and letting yourself be loved is probably what you need right now. Breath counting. Yeah. This is the class. We also, if you go to the playlist, we go through the 5 steps. Are we done? Did everybody like the remote? Did it answer questions? I find it so fascinating actually to go into the remote from Putin's perspective, because it is leaving the United States and then standing on the other side and looking at the United States from a distance. It's pretty cool. Thank you, everybody, for the love and support. If you're still trying to get in for a reading with me, you can go to tarotwithwhimsy.com, or you can make an appointment by calling the office at 323-762-3982. You can also give gift cards because it's a cool holiday present or birthday present for school who's just had a birthday. Thanks, everyone. Much gratitude. Thank you for everybody who supports the channel. It means a lot to me. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks, Noel, Kathy W. Teresa, thank you also for the moderation. And hugs to Mila, yes. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Bye, everyone. Happy holidays, everyone. Stay safe.